Oh, it's not me. Right now, something is aging your skin. You can't feel it. It isn't red. It doesn't hurt. There's absolutely no symptom to panic Google at 2 a.m. And according to researchers, it might be the single most aggressive driver of how fast your skin actually ages. And it has a name: inflammaging or inflammaging. Most people have never heard of it, which is a little absurd because the wellness industry has spent 2 decades arguing about what to put on your skin, while this thing has been quietly running underneath it every day for decades. So here's the plan for today. What inflammaging actually is, how it's physically taking your skin apart from the inside, what's making it worse without you noticing. And one more thing. There's an intervention on that list that nobody thinks of as skincare. It's absolutely free, you're almost certainly bad at it, and it outperforms most of what's in your bathroom. Chapter 1, it's not the inflammation you think it is. I've been buried in research on this for a while now, and this episode pulls together most of the biology we've built across this series. You already know what normal inflammation looks like. You cut your finger, red, hot, swollen, angry. A few days later, it's gone. That's acute inflammation, and it's your immune system doing exactly its job. Inflammaging is the opposite kind of villain. No drama, no deadline, it just smolders in the background for years. You don't feel it, your skin doesn't look inflamed, and the damage still compounds decade after decade. The word is a mashup of inflammation and aging. It describes a persistent elevation in pro-inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, C-reactive protein, with no infection and no injury anywhere in sight. These don't spike. That's the point. A spike your body can handle. These just sit slightly higher than they should be. And that low, boring, unremarkable elevation is enough to cause measurable structural damage to your skin. Now here's the part that changes how you think about aging entirely. Chapter 2, where it comes from. Inflammaging isn't one broken thing. It's the cumulative effect of cellular senescence, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, gut microbiome, dysbiosis, and a lifetime of accumulated stressors. The translation? It's your entire biology slowly leaning in a pro-inflammatory direction as you age, and your skin is standing right in the middle of it. This field has also gotten a lot louder recently. Newer work has shown that senescent cells, the zombie cells that refuse to die and refuse to shut up, are major drivers of chronic inflammatory signaling. Researchers are now mapping the exact triggers that keep cytokine production running during aging. So this isn't fringe. Inflammaging is now considered a key factor in a long list of age-related diseases. The skin research is catching up fast. Which brings us to what it's actually doing to your face. This is where it gets specific, and honestly, a bit uncomfortable. Chapter 3, your collagen in a pincer movement. The most direct damage lands on collagen, of course. Those two headline cytokines, interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, upregulate a family of enzymes in your skin called MMPs. MMP1, MMP3, MMP9. Their entire job is chewing through collagen. That's bad enough. But at the same time, those same cytokines suppress TGF-beta signaling, which is the pathway that normally tells your skin to build collagen. So you get a pincer movement. More demolition on one side, less construction on the other. Nobody noticed this in a week. Over years and decades, that balance tips steadily toward net collagen loss. That's thinning skin, loss of firmness, and the kind of sagging that no serum is reversing once it's arrived. But collagen is only the opening act. There's a second mechanism that I think is more interesting, and it explains something a lot of you are dealing with right now. Chapter 4, your barrier. quietly dismantled. Inflammaging also takes apart your skin barrier. Your barrier depends on tight junction proteins, clodins, occludin, and on a very precise process of keratinocyte differentiation. Cells maturing in the right order, on schedule. Inflammatory cytokines walk in and disrupt that directly. IL-4 and IL-13 reduce flagrin expression, which thins the barrier and lets water escape. IL-1 beta and TNF-alpha loosen the tight junctions. And then you get the loop. A weaker barrier lets in more environmental insults. More insults drive more inflammation. More inflammation weakens the barrier further. This goes round and round and round forever. And this is also why inflammatory skin conditions like atopic dermatitis and rosacea tend to get worse with age. The aging inflammatory baseline is amplifying the exact responses that define those conditions. So, if your skin has become more reactive, more sensitive, or just generally harder to please as you've gotten older, this is a big part of why. Chapter 5, and then there's pigmentation. Inflammatory cytokines are also potent stimulators of melanocyte activity, particularly prostaglandin, E2, and IL-1 alpha, which gets released by damaged keratinocytes. Every inflammatory event leaves behind a little patch of activated melanocytes, a pigment cell that's been switched on and never quite switched off. Now stack chronic low-level inflammaging on top of UV exposure. That's the mechanism behind the uneven pigmentation and age spots that show up over time. So it isn't just sun damage in the simple sense. It's sun damage landing on chronically inflamed tissue that's already pinned to over-respond. It's the same sun, but worse outcome. Chapter 6, what's making it worse? Let's talk about what's driving inflammaging in your skin specifically, because there are a few skin-only culprits worth knowing. UV radiation is the big one, yes we know, and UVB activates nuclear factor kappa light chain enhancer of activated B cells, NFKB, the master inflammatory switch in your cells, in keratinocytes within minutes of exposure, not hours, minutes. Repeat that over years, and you train your skin's immune cells into a chronically primed state. The cumulative inflammatory burden becomes enormous over decades, even in people who never visibly burn. This is why sun protection keeps showing up as the strongest predictor of skin aging quality in study after study. It isn't just about preventing acute damage, it's actually about keeping your inflammaging baseline lower across an entire lifetime. Then there's your skin microbiome. Newer area gaining traction fast. The skin is now being described as a visible sentinel of systemic aging. With age, the microbial community up there becomes less diverse and less stable. The commensal species that normally dampen inflammation decline. The pro-inflammatory ones move in. And a compromised barrier lets microbial products penetrate deeper into the epidermis, where they trip immune receptors and amplify local inflammation. Which is one more reason barrier support isn't just about hydration, it's genuinely anti-inflammatory. And then glycation. Advanced glycation end products or AGEs form when sugars react with proteins, including your collagen. AGEs cross-link collagen fibers, making them stiff and resistant to normal remodeling. Then they bind receptors on immune cells and fibroblasts, triggering NF-kB activation and inflammatory gene expression. High dietary sugar, smoking, and UV all accelerate age formation in skin. So, the sugar and skin connection is real, and it runs straight through inflammation. Chapter 7, what actually works? Before we go to the specifics, one bit of honesty. Almost every wellness product on the market is marketed as anti-inflammatory. That phrase has been stretched so thin, it's now basically decorative. Whether an anti-inflammatory intervention is clinically relevant depends on which pathway it targets, in which cell type, at what dose, and whether it ever reaches the tissue you're aiming at. So, let's be specific. The most powerful interventions are lifestyle level. I know, not the exciting answer, but the data is very hard to argue with. Regular, moderate to vigorous exercise reduces CRP, interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, the core inflammaging markers, across multiple large prospective studies. It also helps clear senescent cells via immune surveillance and supports the regulatory T-cell function that keeps inflammation in check. Sleep. 7 to 9 hours, consistent timing is essential for immune resolution. Chronic sleep deprivation raises IL-6 within days, not weeks, days. And a whole food diet, low in ultra-processed food and refined sugar, reduces both H formation and gut permeability. Gut permeability being one of the major upstream drivers of systemic inflammation. Chapter 8. The compounds worth knowing. Several dietary polyphenols have well-documented mechanisms that are directly relevant to skin. Curcumin inhibits NF-κB and NLRP3. Quercetin inhibits NF-κB and has senolytic properties, meaning it helps clear those zombie cells. Resveratrol activates SIRT1, which deacetylates NF-κB. Omega-3s, EPA and DHA compete with arachidonic acid, producing less inflammatory prostaglandins. And sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts activates NRF2 and reduces oxidative inflammatory stress. None of these are magic bullets, but they are mechanistically grounded, and they work through different pathways. So getting several of them consistently has a compounding effect. Chapter 9. The topical toolkit is genuinely strong. Niacinamide, vitamin B3, is one of the most reliable anti-inflammatory topicals we have. It reduces prostaglandin E2, it reduces MMP expression, and improves barrier function. That's 3 separate inflammaging mechanisms from one ingredient. That's an absurd value. Retinoids reduce NF-κB activity in fibroblasts and reduce UV-induced inflammation, which is part of why they work so well for aging. It was never just the collagen stimulation. There's an anti-inflammatory mechanism running in parallel the whole time. Topical antioxidants. You have vitamin C, vitamin E, green tea, polyphenols. They reduce the oxidative component of NF-κB activation in the epidermis. And daily SPF, as I said earlier also, is the single most anti-inflammaging thing you can put on your face, because it cuts off the biggest external driver of the entire process. Chapter 10. What's emerging? There's an emergent category that I think gets very significant over the next few years. That is senolytics and xenomorphics. Senolytics clear senescent cells. Xenomorphics leave them alive but shut them up. Fisetin and the quercetin dasatinib combination are the most studied in human trials so far. And I would like to mention Avea's cell primer that has both fisetin and quercetin and might actually be worth trying. However, if you are on prescription medication, consult with your doctor first. I would also recommend that you take a look at their longevity bundle featuring 3 of Avea's best-selling supplements, NMN and the booster and the collagen activator. Among xenomorphics, JAK inhibitors suppress AASP cytokine signaling and are being studied for inflammaging more broadly. Rapamycin, an mTOR inhibitor, has multiple anti-inflammaging mechanisms and is currently in clinical trials for skin aging specifically. Chapter 11, the one I said I'd come back to. So, the intervention nobody counts as skincare. Experts now view inflammaging as a central pillar of aging and a driver of accelerated biological aging. And the single most underrated way to slow it down in your skin is consistent, adequate sleep. Not because it's relaxing, because sleep is when your immune system does its resolution work. It's when regulatory T cells do their job. It's when the inflammatory signals from the day actually get cleared. Miss it consistently, and your inflammaging baseline creeps up in a way that no serum, no supplement, and no treatment fully compensates for. The people with the best skin in their 50s and 60s are almost universally the people who protected their sleep for decades. Oh, it's not me. That is not a coincidence. That's the mechanism. Chapter 12. It responds to what you do. Inflammaging is chronic, low-grade inflammation, and it's now considered a critical factor underlying age-associated disease. In your skin specifically, it's degrading collagen, dismantling your barrier, driving pigmentation, and slowing healing. All at once. All silently, all while you're standing at the mirror, worrying about something else entirely. The good news is it isn't fixed. It responds to what you do. So what exactly do you need to do? You need to exercise, get your sleep, watch your diet, sun protection, the right topicals. And these aren't 5 separate habits, they're 5 doors into the same mechanism. If this connected to anything we've covered before, the senescence episode, the barrier episode, the collagen episode, drop a comment and tell me which one to go deeper on next. I read all the messages and they genuinely shape what I make. And if you haven't watched the cellular senescence episode yet, watch that one right after this. It's the upstream driver of a lot of what we just covered. It's linked right below. If this was useful, subscribing means you catch the next one when it drops. We go deep on biology, and there's a lot more coming. So, see you in the next one. Bye.